now people are just going to have to shout over it.
Yeah, yeah.
Change into the rest of the cab. Yeah, it's
Where's Bro Chris?
I don't know.
Right?
He is.
He's a little freaked out and proud.
Yeah, he might be. I don't know.
Oh, there he is. He's over by the door.
Kate is paying money about her.
Give us a link to some people?
Yeah.
Does it look like we're going to be able to live stream to a tripod though, or is someone just going to?
No, Palumbo's going to hold just for the speaking. I don't think we'll do it for the music.
Okay.
You know. Who else was it? Reedmaker 55. That's Dick.
You know, I think you can. Oh, can you not legally live stream because of the music you guys are playing?
No.
Is that violation of copyright or something?
No. This is all pretty much public domain.
Yeah. I was thinking that just a little, like just a few minutes of
yeah, sure.
Would be good.
Well, I mean, you're going to be doing it anyway and posting it to YouTube later.
Yeah, right. Alfred's gonna do it.
I got my ear pierced. I got a third ear piercing. I still kept it. I think it would take about only 3 weeks. Then I bought this like packet of earrings. I don't think it was that many after I got it. And they're all like bananas, watermelons, and like all these like different things. And so I've been like rotating them out, but I've been like
JR Keo 7.
beautiful, I think. Look at my ear pierced. And I just want to close this. I have two clothes at my earrings are like I want to get a real because it's still like half of the it's like the same price. And you get one. It's just a better deal to get 2 earrings. So they're
So, P? So this is running right now? Oh, there's my elbow right there. Yeah. They put
To get it, it's going to take me a second to put everything together.
Brit too?
Really?
Yeah. I should tell me right. So after all the speaking is done, before the music, it's going to take us a minute to get everything together. So I don't know, were you going to say something in between all the speaking and the music?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, good.
Good.
Good, so we can come up and...
Put our stuff together.
Good. Okay.
You want to, yeah.
Speakers will stand right here. For when we play, you mean? We're going to pull out these stands. Britt's going to sit there. You and I will be here. Britt will be in the middle. You and I will be on each side. If you want, sure. Do you?
I guess I should be this way.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay.
We have a selfies thing now.
No, well, it's G. But it's... the live stream is going right now. So, and I can just pass around. Anybody wants to hold it, you can just hold it. I don't know where... Well, you want to be fairly close up, right? Michelle said this is all for the family here. this whole row right here. Hi from Asheville. Oh, that's right. You can.
Do you have our music?
Yeah, your music's right on your stand.
Not the Heidi Lemon Trio.
Sorry, it's on your case. We're not going to do the lemon tree. We're going to do the quants instead. Just the quants and the sheet.
And just the first section of the sheet.
Yes.
Up to the feed. We'll start, but that'll be the that'll be the DC.
Right, just the DC. All our stuff is here. Columbus is right there. So.
And then we're going to play up first.
Yeah, right.
So we'll do which quants and then
And then we'll do the thing with Martha. You and I and Martha.
Okay.
And then all flutes all the time. Yeah. Did you hear the piccolo trio? Went on for a while. It did. Because I remember, it's actually good, but
I left, and they were playing, and I left, and I was doing stuff, and I came back, and they're still playing.
and some of it gets up there, too, so there's going to be a few dogs whistling. Hey, Chris could do it, too. Hey, Chris, so right now this is live streaming so that Aunt Rosemary can see it and Uncle Dick, and it's going over the internet right now. But when we start talking, Paloma's going to kind of like hold it up, but then she won't be able to do it all the time, so maybe I can give it to you and you can hold it up. It doesn't have to be real high, it's just so you can see whoever is speaking here on this stand, you know what I mean? And just leave it. It's going, it's live, everything's cool right now. So find your place wherever you want. This is the whole thing for the family, so watch out, you got something on your lip. There you go. Oh, actually, you're going to be speaking, I think, second. So obviously you won't do this now. We'll do it after you're done. You have your thing with you? I think there's a microphone. I should ask John. Here, why don't you hold this for now, just to get practice. Just wherever you want. You can turn around, look at people, whatever you want to do.
Hi, Chris. Did you bring your little speech with you?
Yeah, you got it.
Did you practice it? Yeah. Okay, good. Cool. We'll have a little microphone you can talk into. So.
Yeah, you are right after on Judy. Okay.
You know what? You are so smart to do that. That's going to be a little hard. So they start from where do you buy them? We all use them at home.
I started doing this. That's a huge job. Shoe pattern. Oh, cabinet. Cabinet door closer.
Because I need about this finger.
Yeah. I don't, on my other pal, I had two. I did. And that's shoe pattern. Yeah, no, I can't do it. Because my hand gets just so tight. But you know, I feel it keeps us young. We have to figure out how to keep ourselves together, right?
Just email you for the Hebert. I stayed there for years. I've come along. They worked. One of them worked with my dad, so I've known them a long time. She's way younger than he would have been, so it's like an older sister. They're so up to 15 north, maybe 20 minutes away. Yeah, because no, you're good.
So, Marty, I'm going to have people sit here.
Yeah, I know. Just not right yet. I got to tell.
Not right yet.
I'm live streaming to Uncle Dick.
wasn't written by them. Just like my favorite Bible music is the Wedding Chant.
Oh, right.
It's good enough for me.
Well, yes, I'm not a musicologist, but if you think about how everything was transcribed for other instruments, who cares? So since you're not senile, don't let me leave without the music stand I brought, because it was from the people I'm staying with.
So who are you standing with?
Well, my parents are all math people, and my father was like an engineer, like early computer scientist. And the woman in this couple worked kind of with him when she was very young. And so she became very friendly with my dad and with my mother. And after my dad died, my mother stayed very close to her and would come out to San Diego and hang out with her. So when I got the job in Phoenix, like, I would take her, and so I've been friends with them a million years. And so my mother's gone, my father's gone, but I still stayed friendly with them. And last summer when we did that quartet thing, I stayed with them. And they've got a great house. She's changed careers about 4 times.
Where is it?
You go up the 15 north. Rancho Penasquitos Boulevard. It's really like maybe 20 minutes north of here, so it's not bad. And they have a house on the edge of a cliff overlooking things in a pool. It's in just a generic development that they bought a perfect lot. And the husband is a trained architect and developer and all this stuff. So they've since expanded their house. It's like villa. It's awesome. So I can stay there anytime. And they adopted 2 children, one from Guatemala and one from Mexico. So they're good people. I love all of our holes plugged and all of our... And these things they have on because this was really the problem, these fingers. And I haven't been able, I didn't know what to put on. I've seen them. But Cindy's got a solution, Mary Kay's got one. So I'll just put it, because my piccolo's really old too. And
my fingers are so small. It took me a few years to realize that long notes were coming out sometimes just because I was slightly off.
And look, I'm 6 feet tall, but look how tiny my hands are. It's like, so I too am genetically predisposed to play piccolo, but even so, yeah, I've got all sorts of, but this thing they've glued on the first piece.
So do you know Judy or
Very not well, but I've met her and talked to her. Yeah, but she's retired too. What is she doing?
She's not pulling it off. She got a job.
Okay.
But no, she's just doing stuff.
Where does she live?
She still lives in Milwaukee.
Oh, she does. Okay.
But she's studying.
Oh, yeah.
So she is really strong. We try to tell everybody I'd be there if I could.
Yeah. So what does she do with herself? I know she liked to travel.
Yeah, she did. She's doing less travel, but she's still doing some. And she's been very tried to do as much as she could before being active with all this stuff.
Yeah. And I knew her dad too.
Yeah.
He coached me. See, I never went to CIM, but the year I lived in Cleveland and studied, I played some chamber music with people at CIM. They just asked me to do it. And so Eddie Orman coached us on Debussy Trio, as did the brilliant but wildly crazy harpist. And I loved coaching with her. Yeah, my God. It was like, oh my God, a riot. You know, and a good musician. Oh yeah, it was education. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then she's
So Judy, I love her.
yeah. So
And her health's fine and all that.
yeah, she was a big one. She got me started right at the young age of 58. Because I walked so fast. She said, you walk so damn fast. And of course, I always thought I was not.
Yeah.
It turned out I could have been into running.
Yeah.
It's okay that I have fresh legs. So
Yeah.
So she was doing that a lot, but then she developed a knee.
Yeah.
So she slowed down on that. That's how it's
Well, as you know, living in the West now, it predisposes one to being active.
California.
Yeah, in Phoenix too. I live right near mountain trails, 5 minutes from my house.
I always saw myself as living.
Oh, I didn't know you were from California. Oh my God.
Wouldn't live there for anything. But California.
No, if I played in that orchestra, I would have to live in a condo across the street from Disney Hall so that I never had to get in my car.
Yeah.
And order food brought to my house. Yeah. It's so awful.
In the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
growing up in Westwood was nice.
Yeah.
This is like a great place to go to. Even here it's
She's practicing now. That's not fair.
I'm just writing an accidental.
I'm teasing you.
I really am. I'm just writing an accidental.
Honey, do your thing.
I'm telling you, last night, I'm on the plane this morning and I need to compose an apology letter to Elizabeth from playing this medicine last night. I was like, it was like I'd never seen her before. And then as I'm playing, I'm starting to think, oh God, is my mind, am I starting to lose it? Am I...
Are getting early onset.
Right.
You know, the last time I played Mendelssohn Scherzo was in context of exactly what you did with the actors and everything. It was a long time ago. Yeah, it was just like you're sitting and then...
And then I'm thinking to myself, I have one thing in this scherzo I have to do. I have one thing and I have to do it right. And I have to come in, that's all I have to do. I have to come in right. And I came in right, but I came in on the wrong note. That was it. And I used to,
I'm sure she still loves you, don't worry.
Bill told me a story about Myron Bloom. I went in before I took the audition the first time. I'd never auditioned for a major audition. I didn't know what I was doing. I was wrapped. I had me do a mock audition. I threw something on early on, and I never recovered from it. I'm going to tell you a story you're going to remember much more than you're going to remember why I told you. The concert, Myron Bloom, they were on tour. For some reason in my head it's Carnegie, but I don't know. I think it was Beethoven's set. And it was like, Bill said, I think there's still pieces of it on the back wall.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I looked at Bill Bates, it was so withering, it was so terrible. And I thought, how in the world? And they were the next thing they were doing, the next piece of the high school, and how in the world are we going to recover from this? Because everybody thought, well, Myra won't be on the bus tomorrow. That's kind of the end of it. So the next thing played sounded like the angels were singing. And all was forgiven. And like, how do you, it was a lesson. You can't once it's out there. So I kept thinking about that last night. And it just kept getting worse. And I said to my son, I couldn't shake it off. I just, one stupid mistake. Then you start thinking, I'm getting old. This is it.
You seem pretty sharp to me. And you don't look old, so... I'm 60 now. 5 more years, baby. Just get me to the finish line. And I love it, but get me to the finish line.
I want to be honest.
I told one of my students who I particularly loved both musically and personally. I said, I love what I'm doing, but I look forward to the day where I don't have to think, are my instruments working? How is my air? How are my lips? How are my ears? How are my fingers? I can just like wake up and like, what are we going to do today?
What are we going to do today?
Yeah.
Right. Which spa am I going to now?
Anything. Yeah. Which hike will I take? Yeah, I have. I think actually, I played Vivaldi last year 3 times, and a woman, in the same week, of course. And so, a woman came up and she said, I enjoyed it, blah, blah, blah. She said, my name's Janice Coleman. And I said, you played second flute in the St. Louis Symphony. And she said, how did you know that? And I said, well, it's a pretty small, microcosm of society. We all know each other's name. And I said, you're just the person I want to talk to. And I haven't followed up on it, but I will. I said, how do you go from 60 to 0? Where you're second flute in St. Louis and you must be perfect and you have to bring it for everybody and everybody knows who you are and you have a title and you're this and that, and then all of a sudden, who are you? You've spent your whole life being this, preparing to do it and then maintaining it at a level that's appropriate, and then and so I want to get together with her and just say, like I just said, were you a little depressed and like a lost soul? And she said, for a while, but then, like, you really get used to it. Like, and she didn't leave. She left at the retirement age with no, I don't know, but with no malice towards the people she was playing with. She didn't leave because she hated like her kids. She went from Jake Bird to Mark Spurgeon, so I think it was fun. I played there twice, and it was.
How was he basically got rid of his own?
Lovely.
She was.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, she and he are a team. That's where she needs to be. She's comfortable. Yeah. The 2 times I played in St. Louis, he was always very nice to me, but it was like we were talking, I thought, you know what? He's a great player and a great musician and would inspire me day by day by day, but do I need that energy? Yeah, it's like, and it's hard to get off you. There's just so many Silkwood showers you can take before it gets in you. Yeah. Even sitting down as a second flutist wasn't acquiescent.
Very conversating. Maybe we need to vibrate. I think our bodies might be competing. And that never works. Okay? And there were a series of, I got in a big argument with her about.
And we all know how difficult you are. Yeah.
She was mad because she was playing second on the Elgar cello concerto, and I just gave her a so there's a couple measures of inflow in here. So we don't split some stuff, but we don't split everything.
Anyway, so it didn't matter. But when Mary came, she just shared this concerto part and stuff that had me go. She my piece of art.
So I,
Oh, yeah. That's more than just the singing part of it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I could invite you for a moment of centering, so we'll be all here present. If you feel comfortable, please gently close your eyes and withdraw your mind from all other places. Bring you to the place that you're sitting. And withdraw your mind from all other spaces and bring you to the space that your body is occupying. And withdraw your mind from all other times and bring it to this moment, to be here now. And as you keep the stream of breath moving, gently open your eyes. On behalf of William Hebert's family, I would like to welcome you here in celebrating the celebrated life of Bill Hebert. My name is Mehrad Nazari, Bill Hebert's son-in-law and Michelle's husband. Mahatma Gandhi says, speak only if it improves upon the silence. Speak only if it improves upon the silence. And that is what Bill did, as long as I knew him. Every time he spoke, his words were measured, pleasant, and beneficial. He made the world a better place, not only by his words, but also with his musical words. Our world is a better place because of his presence and because of what he left behind. Most people knew Bill because he was an accomplished and respected musician. But those who were fortunate enough to know him, he was even more accomplished and respected human being. He lived an extraordinarily rich and quality life with what he did. But also with what he didn't do, it was extraordinary. I never heard him say anything negative about anyone. I mean, anyone. If he didn't have something positive to say, he would remain silent. His word and his music represented his positive, disciplined, and joyful mind. He was my mentor and he was my role model. And at this point, I would like to invite the family members, the children, the grandchildren, and in-laws to share their tributes. But first, someone who really, really Bill loved. Every time she was coming into town, for weeks and days and weeks in advance, he was gleaming. Even every time I saw him with the sparkle in his eyes, Judy's coming to town. We're going to see this place, we're going to be in this restaurant. So, his beloved sister, Judy.
Thanks, Murad. Whoops. Olive, don't time me. My sister Rosemary and my brother Dick, unfortunately, were unable to travel to come here. So what I have to say is for them too. Dick called me up the other day and said, include me in your talk. So I've included him. Oh, don't time it. So, a lot of what you hear me say today is what I wrote in my journal the day after Bill died. And I thought I was going to get through this without a lot of emotion, so I hope I can do that. So here's what I wrote. Yesterday on Father's Day, my brother walked into the arms of the Father of us all. It was also the Feast of Corpus Christi, a day when Catholic Christians celebrate the body and blood of Christ. Today, on this day, we celebrate the Feast of the Transfiguration. And today's feast is a feast of light. And on this day, the church remembers the time when Jesus was transfigured before 3 of his disciples, when his face shone like the sun and his clothes became radiant as light. And if you want to know more, you have to ask a Catholic priest. Personally, I'm not so sure that Jesus really changed. But I do imagine that those 3 disciples were given a glimpse of who Jesus really was. And I think that Bill is now enjoying that vision as well. I don't think it was any accident that his departure from this earth and the celebration of his earthly life was sandwiched in between these 2 feasts. I imagine that Lisa was the first on the welcoming committee who handed her dad a new piccolo and a new flute. And our parents and 2 of our brothers were not far behind. When I think of the legacy that Bill left behind, I think of the hospitality of both Bill and Olive. Shortly after you walked through their door, you were greeted with, "Would you like a glass of wine?" from Bill. And Olive, "Come and eat, you're not eating enough." She always had homemade soup and bread, not homemade. So bread and wine, you get it? They were celebrating the Feast of Corpus Christi without even thinking about it. I also think about Bill's unwavering devotion to his family and of his enjoyment of a good time. Those gatherings for Sunday dinner on 28th Street. The celebrations in this very party room. And the big blowout on Lincoln Boulevard for Bill and Olive's 50th. And I can still hear the easy laughter in those unending tales of life with the Cleveland Orchestra. He told so many stories, and I'll just tell you my favorite. He told of a time when he was playing at Blossom Center in Cleveland, when the silence that followed the end of a quiet, slow movement of Mahler's Second Symphony, a lone whippoorwill sang in the same key that the music had just ended on. He would notice something like that. Bill was in the big leagues professionally, but there was also a stillness inside of him so that he could notice those quiet little things. The progress of his tomatoes, the flowers of his garden, the song of a bird. He didn't say a lot, but he was a magnet for anyone interested in being surprised by the depth of his wisdom or his plain common sense, as Murad spoke about. This is the good part. He still lives on in the characteristics that his kids have taken on. And I'm not naming any names, but if you notice, you'll find gadgeteers. You'll see quick wit and easy laughter, problem solvers, helpers, organizers, mentors. You'll find compassion in the ability to tell a good story, not to mention the gift of music to so many. You'll even find a wine connoisseur and an ability to treat others with respect and dignity. Bill always spoke to me with great pride in each one of you and about his grandkids. I miss Bill. He wasn't just a brother to me, he was my friend. And I thank God for the gift of his faith, for the gift of my faith that convinces me that his life is not over. It's just that his fragile body could no longer contain that vibrant spirit. But he is still spreading cheer in Southern California through his kids. And just listen to that message on his answering machine. Isn't that a great message? So to close, I'd like to read a paragraph You can stop timing me now, Olive. Written by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, for all the people on whom Bill has had a great influence, his family, his friends, his students, and beyond. Quote, "Nothing can fill the gap when we are away from those we love. And it would be wrong to try to find anything. We must simply hold out and win through." That sounds hard at first, but it's a great consolation, since leaving the gap unfilled preserves the bonds between us. It's nonsense to say that God fills the gap. God doesn't fill it, but keeps it empty, so that our communion with another may be kept alive, even at the cost of great pain. Amen.
My father would take us camping, caring for a tree, and enjoy listening to a masterpiece of Beethoven, Mozart. It is because of my father that I could appreciate these as well. Thank you.
So we stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. In the Native American tradition, they first, in introducing themselves, they first introduce their ancestors, then the land that they're from, and then finally their name that they're called. So, I am the daughter of William James Hebert and Olive Carter Boucher. I come from the land of the lakes, and my name, I am called Michelle. I'd like to share with you a few of my father's favorite phrases that he continuously said throughout the years. The first one is moderation in everything, including moderation. I really liked that one because it gave me a lot of leeway. Okay, from his Spanish immersion came the phrase, the greatest invention of mankind, the second greatest invention of mankind is the siesta. And when it came to siestas, he made JFK look like an amateur. He could nap on a dime. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I had this sort of friendship book. And many of you may know what I'm talking about, but you had this little book and you had your friends sign something to you. And so I asked my dad if he would sign my friendship book. And he took the book, and then he gave it back to me. And I looked at it, and he had done a line drawing of someone in a canoe with a paddle. And underneath it, he had written, let's see, love many, trust few, always paddle your own canoe. Love many, trust few, always paddle your own canoe. And he definitely paddled his own canoe. And his 7 kids also paddle their individual canoes. I still think about that one. I still mull that one over. One time in San Francisco, a friend of mine was playing a concert. He was a concert pianist, and he was playing at one of the universities, and my dad came too. And afterwards, he was very quiet. So I said to him, "What did you think, Dad?" And first of all, the performance was technically perfect. It was very dramatic. And so I saw that he was very quiet. He didn't say anything. I said, "Well, what did you think, Dad?" And he said, "A great musician plays as softly as he plays loudly." which when you think about it, it's a metaphor for life. And of course, the women in his family, one of our favorites, Lisa, me, and my mom, was, "Come here and give me a smooch." So he was the son of Leonard Louis Hebert and Margaret Barbara Melrose. He came from the eastern land where the river runs into the harbor. His name is William, and we stand on his broad and steady shoulders.
So I want to plagiarize something my brother John said right as he came into the room right after my father passed away, which was, he's on a different frequency now. And knowing my dad, that frequency is several octaves higher than his. But I was going through his desk, which all of the kids know. Well, when I was young, this desk looked monstrous, but now it comes about here on me, and he kept all his important papers in there. Passports, canceled checks for the last 30 years, the odd gold coin, you know. Anyway, so I was going through it, and I found this. It's a Dear Abby from November 29th, 1991. And it was folded carefully and tucked into one of those little secret drawers. So I knew it meant something to him. And then I read it, and it was basically about Cary Grant, who in his later life would go around and give talks, and at the end of every talk he would quote this meditation. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read just the meditation because I think this is why my dad kept it. Now, Lord, you've known me a long time. You know me better than I know myself. You know that each day I am growing older, and someday may even be very old. So meanwhile, please keep me from the habit of thinking I must say something on every subject and on every occasion. Release me from trying to straighten out everyone's affairs. Make me thoughtful, but not moody, helpful, but not overbearing. I have a certain amount of knowledge to share. Still, it would be very nice to have a few friends who, at the end, recognized and forgave the knowledge that I lacked. Keep my tongue free from the recital of endless details. Seal my lips on my aches and pains. They increase daily, and the need to speak of them becomes almost a compulsion. I ask for grace enough to listen to the retelling of others' afflictions and to be helped to endure them with patience. I would like to have improved memory, but I'll settle for growing humility and an ability to capitulate when my memory clashes with that of others. Teach me the glorious lesson that on some occasions I may be mistaken. Keep me reasonably kind. I've never aspired to be a saint. Saints must be rather difficult to deal with. But on the other hand, an embittered old person is a constant burden. Please give me the ability to see good in unlikely places and talents in unexpected people. And give me the grace to tell them so, dear Lord.
Did you want to? I'll grab the other one just in case, because I do want to segue to something else here. You want that?
Hello, thank you for all coming. My name's Malcolm. I'm the number 3 sibling. And there's a couple things my father wanted me to remind everybody at his service. He mentioned it to all the boys, but I'm the first one to mention it. Somebody else doesn't. He said, remind everybody that you were taught how to make bread, his bread. And that comes courtesy of John, because John's the one that taught me. So I have, right behind Harvey on the table there, 25 copies of how to make Bill Hebert's bread. It's a picture on one side and then text on the back side. The text I published in a food recipe book from my employer one year in the 90s. you all want to know how to do it, I didn't put my phone number. If you have any questions, you can call me and I'll talk you through it. If you were here on Bill's 90th, then you might have even had a chance to eat some, because I made it for him for his birthday. That's the last time I made it, but maybe not the last time. So let's see. So the other thing, a couple things, particular of memory was camping. To me, that's something that sank in pretty well, and I've always had a good time with it. And I still like to think I camp today. I have all the tools, but don't often. But as late as last year, I went out to the desert and camped out there, so I guess I still camp. And the other thing that he taught me was that tomatoes don't come from the grocery store. that was good. So another memory I have was, and this will only take another half hour for me. Sit back and relax. The other memory was I would hear him playing in the basement. He would be playing the piccolo, and at times, he was always going on. So I would go over to the stairs and just go down like 3 or 4 stairs and just sit there. And I couldn't see him; he was off on the side there. But I was just sitting there listening, and then eventually he'd figure out I was there, and then he would start playing the Flight of the Bumblebee. Sneak around the corner and play for me. So that was fun. And then the last thought I have is the thought where if you're going to do something, then you may as well do it well. That's what I got from my father.
Not only Bill was a devoted family man, he also had a loving musical family. And you'll be hearing from some of the members of that family later on. And one of those who could not be here, Kate Steinbeck, sent this piece as the point of her admiration and love for Bill.
So the piece is called Black Mountain Farewell, and it's off a CD that she gave me. And it's a short 2-minute piece, but she wanted, she thought it was her favorite one on that CD, so she wanted to have it played. So here we go.
Technical difficulties.
It's pretty too.
There we go. Got it.
volume action here. Okay, so I'm up next, and before I give my shout out, I'd like to give a shout out. I'm Jonathan, the fifth, and I really want to give a shout out to David and my wife Jean, because it's their mom that bought the condo unit on the 10th floor. And because of that, it eventually flowed to Olive and Bill. And it was really, I mean, we're all here in this room, kind of with thanks to Katie and then David and Jean. So just wanted to give them a little bit of recognition there. So as I said, I don't have this memorized, so I'm gonna have to read it, but it's not very long. So as I said, I am Jonathan, the number 5th son of Olive and Bill, and my dad would often tell me as of late, he said, you're my favorite, but don't tell the other kids. So I have.
Wait, he told me that.
Okay, so my dad taught me many things over the years. He taught me how to listen to heavy metal music, how to avoid confession at the local church, and how to grow pot plants in the 3rd floor rain gutter. But no, just kidding. Seriously.
We did all that though.
Seriously though, he taught me when I was quite small, maybe 10 or less. He taught me how to use power tools and hand tools in his workshop in the basement on Lincoln Boulevard. And he also taught me how to fix a flat tire on my bicycle. And he taught me how to glue broken stuff. And I got so good at gluing, I just christened the title the Glue Meister. And even to this day, if you have something that's broken and can be fixed by gluing, I'm the man for the job. My fondest memories were of the many summers camping trips that he took us on in over half of the United States. We would go in all directions, every year, different direction. And a lot of different campgrounds and national monuments, and there's a lot of good memories for that. And then also, of course, was the shack, also known as the cottage and cubic acres, which he purchased from stock investment in Cubic Corporation. It had so many just memorable things, the swimming in the fishing pond, the bunkhouse, he had a worm pit, the fruit orchard, the organic garden, the ramjet pump, and a river that ran behind the 7 acres of property. My dad was a soft-spoken man who taught me to be patient, loving, and kind. And there are 2 thoughts that I'd like to leave you with today, and I'm sure that my dad would approve of. And the first one is, no matter where you go, you can never get rid of yourself. And number two, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Thanks, Pop. I miss you a lot.
Hello, I'm Marty Pinecoffer, husband of Lisa Hebert and Kate and Max's dad. The family refers to me as Marty P, so I'm not confused with Marty H, real Marty. I just want to read a poem here from Ruth Ann Mahaffey, sorry. It's called A Letter from Heaven. To my dearest family, some things I'd like to say, but first of all to let you know that I arrived today, or I arrived okay. I'm writing this from heaven. Here I dwell with God above. Here there's no more tears of sadness. Here is just eternal love. Please don't be unhappy just because I'm out of sight. Remember, I am with you every morning, noon, and night. That day I had to leave you, when my life on earth was through, God picked me up and hugged me and said, I welcome you. It's good to have you back again. You were missed while you were gone. As for your dearest family, they'll be here later on. I need you here badly. You're part of my plan. There's so much that we have to do to help our mortal man. God gave me a list of things he wished for me to do, and foremost on the list was to watch and care for you. And when you lie in bed at night, the day's chores put to flight, God and I are closest to you in the middle of the night. When you think of my life on earth and all those loving years, because you're only human, they're bound to bring you tears. But do not be afraid to cry. It does relieve the pain. Remember, there would be no flowers, unless there was some rain. I wish that I could tell you all that God has planned. If I were to tell you, you wouldn't understand. But one thing is for certain. Though my life on earth is o'er, I'm closer to you now than I ever was before. There are many rocky roads ahead of you, and many hills to climb, but together we can do it by taking one day at a time. It was always my philosophy, and I'd like it for you too, that as you give unto the world will give to you. And now I am contented that my life was worthwhile, knowing I passed along the way, I made somebody smile. And when it's time for you to go from that body to be free, remember you're not going. You're coming home to eat. We'll be there.
Hi everybody, I'm Kate. I am the only granddaughter, so okay.
Right.
I'm going to sing a song today because I felt like that'd be good. I'm singing "In My Life" by the Beatles. Okay. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone, and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I love them all, but of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you, and these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before, I know I often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex. You all originally know me as the favorite grandchild. Had a good 16-year run or so. Then Kate came along. But you made a good point, I was still the favorite grandson. Had another good little run. Hey, Max. I have a son of my own now, and Grandpa Bill got to meet him back in February. And Max, I hate to tell you this, but Grandma says he is the most amazing boy she's ever seen. But I didn't come here to tell you that. I'm actually here to read some words from a friend of the family, Roberto Mas. Bill became an important person in my life in 1980. He and Olive became my surrogate family for what was initially going to be a 2-year stay, but then extended for 7, and then forever, because once Bill and Olive become part of your life, you keep them forever. During my years as a graduate student at Case Western Reserve, I knew that in my most desperate moments, I could stop by Lincoln Boulevard just to experience the unconditional welcome and sympathy of Bill and Olive. His reassurances were not empty or polite. They came from his experience as a father, a first-rate educator, and from his perspective on life. Noticing how respectful and extraordinary a father he was to his children, he became a great role model for me. He had this quiet and relentless devotion to them and to Olive. If I were to use one word to describe Bill, I would choose unselfish. But I'd also add practical, principled, perfectionist, focused, and very alert to the world around him. Bill, a champion of environmental and social causes, inspired me to embrace Mother Earth with similar zeal. Bill was one of the most extraordinary human beings I've ever met. I will always cherish his memory, and I'll always love him.
Thanks, son.
I'm Jeannie Hebert Brown. I'm the wife of number 5 son. For the past few years, I've made what I like to call a gourmet Sunday dinner, including a decadent dessert, with Bill and Olive as permanent guests. We talk about the news, play the puzzle master. No one said the word love, but it filled the room. After the main course, I'd ask, who wants dessert? And Bill would always say yes before I could get the words out of my mouth. He wasn't verbally demonstrative, but he would kiss me goodbye and say, "Te amo," and this always made me feel so special. It was because of Bill that I became a Hebert. John didn't believe in marriage. He said it was just a piece of paper. The reason that John proposed was because at Christmas in 1983, Bill sat down with John and said, "I can play at your wedding this weekend or that one." And that is why our wedding anniversary is September 15th. Te amo, Bill. Thank you for making me part of your family. I'm very happy to be a Hebert. Or is it an Hebert?
And for those of you who had the chance to see, in the back there is a picture of Bill and Michelle and an empty harp at our wedding because they provided the music.
Another beautiful tradition that Bill and Olive had created was that when they had a newborn, was coming from hospital home, he would serenade the arrival of the newborn with his magical flute. So that from the very moment the new baby came home, he would listen to his magical flute. And now you'll be witnessing the result of this tradition from his children, and also the extended family, the musical family.
All right, you're on. Keep talking. Good thing.
Yeah.
Cue the band.
Gravity does not take a holiday.
A lot of people may not know this, but Bill played bassoon for a year.
What? No.
Yes, true.
Really?
Yes. As his firstborn son, I was privy to many stories that others were not. Now, the manner with which he found this Heckel bassoon, Heckel, of course, makes the world's best instrument, I was always skeptical of his story, but I accepted it. And he said, the story he told me was that when he was coming back from South Pacific in World War II, on this troop ship that he was on, he found a Heckel bassoon on the deck. Now, if you believe that. Anyway, he stuck to that story. And he wound up going back, when he went to New York, he sold that bassoon, and he was able to live off the proceeds of that for about a year. But before he sold it, he actually learned how to play it a little bit. I don't know how well, but well enough to make a noise on it and, you know, play some of the pitches. So that isn't how I started, but that came about because of my father's youngest brother, Dick, played bassoon at the Met. And he lived with my parents his first year in college, which was in Cleveland. And to repay Bill and Olive for housing him for a year, he gave me a Heckel bassoon when I was about 11 years old, and that's how I started on it. Wow. So now we will let the music speak. Yeah.
Please don't think of this as any sort of formal concert setting. Think of it more like it would be in Beethoven's time. If you want to clap in between, fine. If you want to throw tomatoes, fine.
As long as they're homegrown.
Right. It is what it is. Okay.
Chords, right? Okay, let her rip. This next selection is Trio Sonata from Bach. Bach, probably one of pop's favorite composers.
He had all those cantatas, remember? He had a whole filing cabinet. The bottom two drawers were filled with all of the music and all of the parts for the voices, the strings, the winds, everything of all of the Bach cantatas, of which there are, I don't know, 200 or something.
So what we dedicated on our YouTube channel to your dad is that on your Facebook page?
I did put it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Introduce yourself.
I'm Martha Ahrens, and I studied with Bill for a certain time period, and then had the honor of being one of his colleagues and sitting next to him for the rest of his time in the Cleveland Orchestra. Very lucky person.